Your community, your elections. WBRC, you decide 2025.
And we at WBRC committed to giving you all the information you need for Election Day. And that's why I've invited all 9 Birmingham mayoral candidates here to answer questions most important to you. And joining us today is State Representative Juandalynn Givan. Ms. Givan, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
We've got 3 questions. We have not given you, of course, ahead of time. Same with the questions we're asking of all the candidates. You'll have 3 minutes to answer each of those questions. The first one is about public safety. Both the reality of it and the perception of it in Birmingham has been a challenge of late. What would a Givan administration do differently to both improve the reality of public safety and its perception?
The first thing I'm going to do is tell the public the truth. And the reality is that the City of Birmingham Law Enforcement Police Department is down nearly 600 or 700 police officers. We must share with the public the total number of sworn law enforcement officers. And once we get past that real reality, then we're going to deal with all of the levels of crime, not just from the perspective of saying that crime is down from where it was last year or that killings were down. Birmingham, in many regards, now is known as Killingham and Murderham. That's a name that no city should have to have or be called because of the lack of the number of sworn officers to properly protect the city, number one, and its citizens, but also because of the number of killings that has taken place. In the last 8 years, Birmingham has seen nearly 1,000 deaths due to senseless gun violence and did not stop to act until last year after such fierce advocacy. And I have to say for myself that this administration did anything. So my plan is this. It's simple. It is called the Birmingham Protect and Serve Community Policing Act. We're going to create a true community policing act that will deal with crime prevention, de-escalation training, not just for officers, but also for citizens as well. We're going to also do a plan that is individualized for each neighborhood. Why? Because every neighborhood in Birmingham is unique in its own way. There are cultural differences within these neighborhoods, 99 neighborhoods in 23 communities. So we're going to work on a plan that fits, and especially in those high crime areas. We're going to reinstate substations. Those substations will be manned until we get enough officers' boots on the ground with those officers who have retired within 1 to 5 years. We're going to bring back stronger beat programs, as well as the policing programs as it relates to youth athletics. So why am I going to do that? Because then we are creating partnerships within the communities. Also, we're going to also deal with not just the de-escalation, but we're going to deal with mental health issues that impact families during crime-involved confrontations or domestic violence. So all of those things work hand in hand. Not every call should be necessarily handled by law enforcement. It's very taxing on our officers. And then I'm going to build back the morale of that department. Birmingham, as I've said, has lost nearly 700 to 800 officers over the course of the past nearly 8 years. Right now, they're fluctuating between 450-ish, not quite 500 officers. We're going to deal with the fact that just because you see a rookie class doesn't mean that the numbers have gone up, because the problem is typically within 1 week, someone is leaving, retiring 5 to 8 officers. So we're not even doing a wash on the number of officers.
That's our time on that question. Thank you, Ms. Givan. Now to the second question involving jobs and the economy. How would your administration recruit more jobs to Birmingham and also retain the students who graduate from post-secondary education in this area but have elected to move elsewhere to start their careers?
First of all, it all works hand in hand. Right now, Birmingham, there's still a stigma over Birmingham that this city is not quite safe. We saw many companies leave last year for that reason. Also, we have to create a cultural shift in the type of jobs that we bring to this city. Listen, at the end of the day, people go to Atlanta and California and New York because of the cultural differences and all of the different jobs that they have to offer. For instance, tech jobs, things of that nature, jobs in fashion. You have to change the mindset of the people. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work on bringing jobs, but we're going to have to bring an anchor tenant into the city of Birmingham. What does that mean? That means we will have to bring some company that has such a big brand name, that is a large employer, no differently than Amazon, but it needs to be somewhere centrally located within the city center of Birmingham. Why? Because that sparks interest. But also, we're going to have to deal with better job training, job readiness programs to help our college students when they get out of college, because sometimes people think that you graduate and you just go straight into a job. You know, I'm a lawyer. Well, the training for lawyers are a little bit differently. We are somewhat to agree self-made, but we still are in the practice of law. So with that being said, we're going to bring in companies where we're going to create the partnerships. Birmingham has to create partnerships. Costco is coming to Irondale, but we have Eastwood Mall that's just sitting there. But there's a reason why these companies are not landing in Birmingham. First of all, you have to have an attentiveness from City Hall to sit at the table to negotiate the deal, to enter into MOUs, but certainly to allow the general public also an opportunity of those young, up and rising sensations here in Birmingham to have a seat at the table to talk to you about the type of jobs they would like to see here, and that could be a part of the recruiting process as well. And not only the young college student or whoever it is, it should be a part of our process. Period. Let's talk about what's good for Birmingham. What do we need, and most importantly, where does it go when it comes here?
Finally, our third question is a topic you sort of touched on a little bit earlier, and that is the issue of the perception, often in mayoral races, that the 99 neighborhoods perhaps feel slighted sometimes when it comes to blight, abandoned homes, weed abatement, sidewalks, et cetera, paving, compared to the downtown business district. How would your administration make sure that those neighborhoods are invested in while also realizing the significance of keeping downtown a thriving hub?
Birmingham has long been the tale of two sides or two cities or what have you. Listen, there is no secret, and I'm telling everyone, even my friends, take a field trip. Go to Inslee. If you live in Forest Park, go to Inslee. If you live in Crestline, go to Pratt. If you live in some parts of Crestwood, go to Riley, Roosevelt City, Woodlawn, parts of Woodlawn, Winona, Gracilla. These are communities and neighborhoods within the city of Birmingham. They look like war zones. It is unacceptable. It's not an issue of whether I'm taking better care of my property. These are city services that are or should be delivered to everyone. So for me, my thing is I'm going to create a better neighborhood program. I'm going to change the name from just our neighborhood associations. We're going to change the name to the NAP, and it's the Neighborhood Advisory Participation Partnership Program. Why am I continuing to talk about partnerships? Because Birmingham needs to do better by way of communicating with its citizens, all citizens. And with that being said, we're going to restore that $10,000 that the neighborhoods used to get, but we're going to also make them true stakeholders. We're going to incentivize them to further assist in the neighborhoods. And that is important. And again, NAP is important because of the level of incentives that we're going to attempt to employ. If you bring in and allow for neighborhoods to be treated equally, you do better as a mayor. And I'm also, with that being said, on Fridays, I'm going to have a real talk, chat and shoot every Friday with anyone who wants to make an appointment with me, because I want to make sure that the services in all neighborhoods are being rendered through 311 or whatever the mechanism is. It is unacceptable for calls to go unmanned or return 3 weeks out, a month out, trash, brush, litter, debris, potholes, dilapidated housing, overgrown lots. All of those issues matter, and it should matter that the grass is cut on the west side no differently than the grass is cut on the south side. And I'll close with this. We saw it last year with the mass killings. There had already been 2 mass killings. Not one news station beyond just a few days after North Birmingham, after the 4 young men that I knew were killed on Center Street, the discussion went dead. But when it happened on the south side, so that is the reality. The whole world stopped in Birmingham because it happened at Hush Lounge. So for me, the realization is I worked under Richard Arrington, and that was one of the strongest policies and procedures and practices that he had to ensure that the neighborhoods, all neighborhoods, are treated equally. And one could make the argument that that's not the case, but again, take a field trip. And if you would let me finish, I just want to say one thing. When I say field trip, I have friends that live in these areas that are taken care of, that do receive those 7 key essential services of street and sanitation, libraries, roads and transportation, and all of the other ones combined, Parks and Rec. But at issue is there are 99, but for them the bar is set so low because they get everything they want. But I want to make sure everybody gets a fair seat at the table.
And that's our time. Thank you, ma'am. Again, our election day begins August the 26th at 7 a.m. The polls continue on until 7 p.m. Make sure you go vote and then check out WBRC's coverage on our WBRC.com site and the WBRC News app. And we'll be live first at 9 with all the results.